Welcome to the 14th session of Secrets of Spirituality. In the previous session, I was showing you this particular picture, which is the top view of the Milky Way galaxy, so to say. Again, I'm not really very sure about this picture. Even the astronomers claim that this is the picture, because galaxy as such is three-dimensional. When it is three-dimensional, we cannot really say that this movement of the stars is only planar. We really don't know the mysterious ways of nature. The more we try to know about the secrets of nature, the more we get lost in losing our basic knowledge of life itself. The more we try to analyze things, the more we get lost in the analysis itself. In fact, that is where it is difficult for the materialistic people to understand the spiritual side of life or the spiritual side of nature. Remember one story which is coming in the Vedas, the story of Badhva and Bashkali. Bashkali once goes to one person called Badhva, and he requests Badhva to teach him the science of the self, or to teach him the secrets of the self. In other words, Bashkali asks Badhva to teach him Atma Vidya. Badhva agrees, and then Bashkali requests him to start teaching. And Badhva keeps on looking at Bashkali with the fixed gaze. But Badhva does not speak anything. Bashkali is waiting that Badhva will start the teaching. And after some time, Bashkali again asks Badhva, I have requested you to start the teaching session on Atma Vidya, or the secrets of the self. Again, Badhva keeps on gazing at Bashkali with the pleasant face, with the emotionless, feelingless, plain and calm face. Bashkali waits for some more time. Bashkali, for the third time, again opens his mouth and asks Badhva, I have been requesting you to start teaching the secrets of the self, but you have not started your teaching at all. Now Badhva opens his mouth and says, I have been teaching you from the last few minutes, and you have not been listening. Now Bashkali asks, when you have been teaching, you have not been talking at all. Now Badhva says, that is the teaching. The secret of the self cannot be a sound, cannot be a voice. The secret of the self is silence, because the self is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Silence. The self, or the consciousness, is governing the whole of the universe by means of its own predefined laws of nature or laws of universe. And it is silent. It has no compulsion or intention to speak about itself. Whenever there is a question, there is an answer. But when the question is oral, the questioner expects that the answer comes through words. But the questioner is questioning only to exhibit the ego. And this ego is present only with those organisms who have brain. Plants and trees do not have brain. They don't have ego. In nature, anything else does not have ego except the creatures that are having brain. The brain is imparted to the moving creatures only because they will have to remember the experiences of their movements. And that is when ego was also constructed by using the brain. So when the ego is involved in query, there cannot be another ego satisfying this particular ego. You as an aspirant asked me to teach you the secrets of the self. But as a self, how can I speak? As an ego, I can speak again about the self. But if you want me to teach about Atma Vidya, I should teach through my silence only. Because only when you are silent, only when your ego is undisturbed, only when your mind is calm, then you realize that you are the part of that self. How else do you expect me to teach you? Now it was Bashkali's turn to remain silent. This is a very beautiful story. All over the world, there are immense faith systems, immense religions, immense methods of rituals, immense ways of trying to please God, immense ways of prayers, immense ways of worships. What for? To please God. The people who make a great effort to please God are actually pleasing their own ego as such. You need not please God in any way because God is not an ego to be pleased. Fish need not please water in any way. Because water does not want to be pleased by the fish. When fish itself is the transformation of water itself, why should fish think that it should please water as such? If fish lives a life of gratitude, if fish lives a life of humility, if fish lives an earnest life, being a fish itself, then why any other worship is required? Why any other prayer is required? Why any other ritual is required? Most of these faith systems recommended all these rituals or worships just to keep the people occupied with some other so-called good thing so that they will not involve themselves in the so-called bad things. Otherwise, do you think God will be pleased by all your worships? God will be pleased by all your rituals? God will be pleased by all your vows? Is God an ego to be satisfied? Those who still think that God is a human being or God is one personality, they still have to understand the story of Badhwa and Bashkali. Those who come into the path of yoga, only they will gradually realize that after dhyana, why there is samadhi. For those people who are not into this time-tested practices or time-tested theoretical revelations, they will keep on doing this lifelong with all types of worships, vows and rituals. I think I had told you the 3 relationships earlier. If not, I will tell it once again now. There are basically 3 types of relationships. First one is Jivadaiva Sambandha. Second one is Guru Shishya Sambandha. Third one is Tatkalika Sambandha. The first one is Jivadaiva Sambandha, the relationship between ego and the self. or the relationship between life and God. This is called as Nitya Sambandha. This is eternal relationships, everlasting relationships. This is the relationship which is existing always. The relationship between fish and water is going to remain that way always. Water will always have a contact with the fish. Whether fish wants to have a contact with water or not is its choice. If fish establishes relationship with water, then that relationship is eternal as long as fish exists. That is called Nitya Sambandha. Now the relationship between Guru and Shishya, the master and the disciple, is going to be for many lives. So Guru Shishya Sambandha is Janmantar Sambandha. Remember the relationship between Mahatar Babaji and Lahiri. Remember the relationship between Maheshwaranatha and Shriyam. Such relationships are running for a few lifetimes. Let us say there is a realized fish in water, and let us say there is an unrealized fish which is becoming a disciple to the realized fish. Then that relationship can go for many lifetimes until the unrealized fish becomes realized by the help of the realized fish. Guru is like the realized fish. Shishya is like the unrealized fish. So Guru will keep on coming in contact with the Shishya as long as the Shishya remains unrealized. This can go on for many lives. That is called Janmantar Sambandha. And all other relationships of mother, father, brother, sister, mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, cousins, nephews, uncles, aunts, grandfathers, grandmothers. All these relationships are only limited to this particular life. That way, all these relationships are temporary. All these relationships are Tatkalika Sambandha. Now it is up to the aspirant to give value to which type of relationships. Will you keep on giving relationships for those ones which are temporary, or will you give the value to the relationships which are going for many lives, or will you give value to the relationships which is going to be eternal? That is always your choice. Now, if you want to have an eternal relationships, then guidance is necessary. For that guidance, a master or a preceptor or a teacher is necessary. At times, you may have to find a particular teacher or a master or a preceptor as per your own mindset, as per your own requirements. But in the theosophical domain, there is a great sentence which says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It also goes one step ahead, where Madam Blavatsky says, when the student is ready, the teacher is already there. When the student is ready, the teacher is already there within. It is for the student to become ready for learning. The teacher will teach through the silence. So, my dear listeners, I am not telling you to ignore all the temporary relationships of father, mother, sister, brother, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, uncle, aunt, cousin, nephew, grandfather, grandmother, or your friends as such. I'm not telling you to ignore those relationships. But you will be fortunate if you get a handful of friends who will share your pains. You will get hundreds of friends who will share your pleasures. But who will be the friends who will share your pains? That is a question mark. Now, I'm again not telling you to ignore all these temporary relationships. They are required for a social life. They are very much required. But remember that these relationships are only for this particular lifetime. Whoever is your father in this life, he was not your father in the previous life. He will not be your father in the next life. That is for sure. If at all that happens in the next life, then there is some connection between you and him. But you really don't know in your next life whether you will be born as a male or a female. You also don't know whether your father will be born as a male or a female. I'm not going to talk about rebirth and reincarnation right now. I'm going to keep it for the end of this presentation. So don't ask me about the process of rebirth or reincarnation right now. If at all you have to understand that, then you have to understand about the self in much more detail. And you have to remember the law of karma, which was already discussed earlier. So in this way, you cannot really discard all the relationships you are already having, but you have to bear it in mind that all these relationships are temporary, only for this particular lifetime. If at all you are deeply in love with somebody, deeply having an affection with somebody, deeply you are remembering somebody, then there are chances that you may get connected again in the next life. But that is again your own choice. To have deep connection with some other person is your own personal decision, and that same decision should be there with the other person as well. Then the two memories will always be connected to each other, and this relationship may continue even in the next life. But how many such cases are there? How many husbands and wives are really very much deeply in love with each other, very much concerned with each other, very much affectionate towards each other? How many are there? That percentage is also very less. In most of the cases, husband-wife relationship is also going to be materialistic. Many times, selfish and opportunistic. You'll hardly find couples like Thiruvalluvar and Vasuki. So in such a case, how many percentage of couple who are married are going to have a deep love towards each other? Because love means there is sacrifice. If only such relationships exist, then in both of their memories, there is enough space for each of them, and such relationships may continue even for the next life. So now coming to Guru Shishya Sambandha, the relationship between a teacher and a student, or a master and a disciple. Why it continues for the next life? That is because in between them, there will be seriously a lot of longing and affection. Now the teacher wants the student to be realized, and the student wants the teacher to make him realized or make her realized. Only such teacher-student relationship will continue for the next life. Please remember, not all the teacher-student relationships. That is why we say it is not teacher-student relationship, it is Guru-Shishya relationship. The word Guru cannot be translated effectively into English. In the same way, the word Shishya cannot be translated effectively into English. There are some words, they cannot be effectively translated into English, such as the word Bandhu, such as the word Prana, such as the word Manas. Some high-level spiritual words, or so to say, paranormal or metaphysical words, do not have equivalent English words there. That way, English language is poor and Sanskrita language is rich. So, if this Guru-Shishya Sambandha, Guru-Shishya relationship is the real relationship, there will be a heavy concern or there will be a heavy affection towards each other. When my Parameshti Guru Kanakananda told my Paramaguru Gitananda that first you learn yoga, first you practice yoga, then you pursue MBBS, then you start teaching yoga, then people will believe you. That was a great concern, that his student should become a beacon of light to the people on this earth. And what a great relationship between them. In fact, my Paramaguru says that he could not understand the value of his teacher until he became a teacher. Because when my Parameshti Guru Swami Kanakananda was teaching to my Paramaguru Gitananda, Gitananda was at that time called as Ananda, and he was very young. As a young boy, he could not understand all the intentions of his own Guru. But later on, he could understand all that. In one of his interviews, Dr. Swami Gitanandagiri says that my Guru, that particular gentleman, he destroyed me, he devastated me, he simply, completely killed me. And he tells this with a laughter and a smile. I was supposed to be a practicing medical doctor, and I was supposed to become very rich and very famous just by my medical practice. My Guru Swami Kanakananda simply destroyed me. And this he says with a laughter and a smile. What is a Guru going to do? A Guru is going to kill the ego of the Shishya. Because egolessness itself is self-realization. Now, Guru will have to keep a little amount of ego with himself just to do this activity of killing the ego of the Shishya. Because for doing that activity, ego is required with the Guru. Later on, if the purpose is fulfilled, even Guru is ready to become egoless. So basically in the Guru Parampara, this is what is going to happen, nothing else. Each Guru is trying to kill the ego of the disciples, because when the students come for learning, they will come with a lot of ego. One way or the other, they will have their own ego. And one way or the other, they will have their own misunderstanding of the self. They will have their own limited belief systems, their own faith systems, their own way of conditioned living. Because they would have learned many half things, sometimes wrong things from many people. Now the Guru has to completely format their mind, completely cleanse their mind, completely empty their intellectual level. Then he has to fill in again whatever is really required for self-realization. For that purpose, Guru should be killing the ego of the Shishya, and Shishya should be ready to get his ego killed or get her ego killed. That is the greatest compassion, greatest concern towards each other. And until that purpose is fulfilled, that particular relationship go on for many lives. Once that happens, then there is a Nitya Sambandha. There is an eternal relationship between the ego and the self, or between the fish and the water. Later on, Guru is not necessary. Later on, Guru is not required. Guru's purpose is fulfilled. Later on, Guru is also with the eternal relationships. Shishya is also with the eternal relationships. Both are in relationship with God himself. Santa Shishunala Sharifa had a Guru called Govinda Bhatta. And Govinda Bhatta made a Muslim boy get initiated into the Gayatri Mantra. And the Govinda Bhatta made one Muslim boy as a saint called Sharifa, Santa Sharifa of Shishanala. And until the student got self-realized, the Guru kept on molding him, teaching him. And after the student became ready, the teacher gradually made the student independent. Even after his Guru left his body, even after Govinda Bhatta left his body, Santa Shishanala Sharif also lived for many years, composed many beautiful Kannada poems on the science of yoga. Now both were in touch with the eternal existence, that is the eternal relationship. That is the whole purpose of life, nothing else. Until this is achieved, life will keep on repeating in its own way. As long as you want to live, you will come back to life. As long as you don't want to die, you will come back to life. Because that is your inner desire. The day when you want to go out of this cycle of karma, you have the freedom to do that also. And that is possible only through self-realization. There is no other way. Purusha Sukta says, Na anya pantha ayanaya vidyate. Purusha Sukta in the Veda says, there is no other way. This is the only way. Fish has to merge in water. If fish has to merge in water, fish has to initially realize water. Otherwise, fish wants to remain fish. As long as fish wants to remain in fish, its memory is filled with the fish's existence itself. So fish will continue to exist. It is as if as long as the seed has its ability to sprout, seed will keep on becoming a sprouted seed, a plant, a tree, again fruits, again seeds, and this cycle will continue. That is the secret of rebirth. Okay, let me not talk about that now. Let me keep it for the last part of my presentation. Let me go to the next slide. You can see in this picture, there are 7 stars. We have been coming from the universal vision of stars. Then we came down to galaxies. Now we are coming down to stellar systems as such. From the infinite, we are gradually coming down to the finite way of looking at things. So, this is one particular stellar system which is called in Sanskrit as Saptarshi Mandala. This is a collection of or conglomeration of 7 stars. And this is named as Vishwamitra, Jamadagni, Bharadwaja, Gautama, Atri, Vasishtha, Kashyapa. It is not that Vishwamitra went there, Jamadagni went there. It is not like that. Even now people think that all these 7 sages went there and they became stars. No. It is not like that. If at all we have a Mahatma Gandhi road in Bengaluru, it does not mean that Mahatma Gandhi became a road. Right? It is not like that. To honor those 7 sages, these 7 stars were named that way. You already know that stars are nothing but burning lights, nothing else. So, these 7 stars are always visible on the sky at different portions on the sky on different days. But usually you can locate them easily whenever you look at the sky, but you'll have to wait for them to appear. At times they may appear after evening itself, at times they may appear during the morning hours. But these 7 stars have their own peculiar arrangement and they will appear on the sky normally. You can especially check this particular stellar system on a new moon day. As these 7 stars are visible permanently that way, and as these 7 sages had great contributions for the spiritual science, the Indian philosophers or Indian saints thought that they should keep the names of these 7 rishis to these 7 stars. That is how the name came as Vishwamitra, Jamadagni, Bharadwaja, Gautama, Atri, Vasishta, Kashyapa. Now there is one more special thing. You can see around this Vasishta, you can see one small star. That is called as Arundhati. Vasishta's wife was called as Arundhati. And this star is not easily visible. You will have to focus there. Once you focus there, very much adjacent to Vasishta, you will see a small star there. That is called as Arundhati. Generally, in the Hindu custom of marriage, or strictly to say that it is a Vedic system of marriage. Because in the present custom of marriage, it is only photography, videography, lunch, dinner, reception, and selfies, and glamour, and color, and beauty. It is basically an exhibition, I should say. Even though in the marriage card they print as if you should come and bless the couple itself is not ready to take blessings of anybody because they are busy with their makeups and dresses and with the photo shoots, with the long queue of reception. Who is ready to take the blessing? Who is ready to give the blessing? That's a big question mark in the present marriage ceremonies. But during the Vedic system of marriage, of course, now also that Vedic system of marriage exists. In the Bangalore city, there is an organization called Arya Samaja. And there are some very committed people who perform the marriage even in the Vedic style, even now, even today. In fact, one of my students had his marriage few months before, and the marriage was completely performed by my good friend who is the editor of Veda Taranga magazine. His name is Shruti Priya. He himself conducted the complete marriage in the Vedic style. Of course, that culture exists now as well. So there is something called Arundhati Darshana in this Vedic system of marriage. Arundhati Darshana means both bride and bridegroom are brought out, and preferably at night time, they are asked to look at the sky and identify the Saptarshi Mandala, and they are advised that look at this particular 2 stars, Vasishtha and Arundhati. They have been together since many eons, and they will be together for the next many eons of time. So you two should be together at least for this particular lifetime. Otherwise, we don't know how long the present marriages are going to last. There's a joke where they say that in the first year of marriage, husband talks and wife listens. In the second year of marriage, wife talks and husband listens. From the third year onwards, both talk and neighbors listen. That is the case nowadays, where there is not much of understanding between husband and wife. I really doubt whether they really want to remain husband and wife even in their next life also. Many times such relationships are materialistic relationships, selfish relationships, or preconditioned, socially biased relationships. But that was actually not the purpose of marriage. The purpose of marriage is mutual concern, mutual respect, mutual help. That is why in the Vedic system of marriage, or in some Hindu customs, they still have this practice called Arundhati Darshana, where these 2 stars are shown to the bride and the bridegroom and advise that you should live together just like Vasishtha and Arundhati are living together. Okay, this is one such stellar system. Now this Saptarshi Mandala has one more speciality. That speciality is, you can see this Vishwamitra and Jamadagni. Always you have to start from this side. You will have to identify this Saptarshi Mandala It looks as if it is a kite with a tail. You can see that way. See, this is like a rhombus with a tail. Or it also looks like a question mark. That also is there. You can see, you can visualize this as a question mark. So, once you identify this particular Saptarshi Mandala on the sky, you will have to extend this Vishwamitra and Jamadagni's line down or up or wherever, in whichever direction this particular system is. When you extend this line, at the end of this line, you will see one particular lightly glowing star, and that particular star will remain there only whole night. I'll show you that in the next picture. The 7 stars and the pole star, Saptarshis and Dhruva Nakshatra. I'll show you this now. See, this is Vishwamitra, Jamadagni, Bharadwaja, Gautama, Atri, Vasishta, Kashyapa. You extend this Vishwamitra Jamadagni's line, it will reach to a particular star, lightly glowing star, that is called as North Star, or it is called as Dhruva. In Sanskrita, Dhruva means stable. So here Dhruva means it is stable, it remains there only. In fact, all the stars are moving in the universe, in the space. I cannot say sky, I should say space. But the speciality with this North Star is its movement and Earth's movement are synchronized. That is how on the Earth we see that star always there at the north side. It is as if, let us say you are traveling in a bus, adjacent to you there is one more bus. Then if the 2 buses are moving in the same speed, you will feel as if both the buses are not moving. So that way you should say, along with your position, relative to your position, the position of the other bus is also stable. That way the Earth's movement and the pole star's movement, they are synchronized. Whereas the movement of all other stars or all other planets along with the Earth are not synchronized, they are different. That is how this pole star appears always there on the sky. So in the olden days, when people used to travel through the ships, they did not have compass at that time. They used to simply find out the direction of north just by detecting this particular Saptarshi Mandala, and then they used to extend. Now, this is the name given by the Indian system to call it as Saptarshi Mandala and Dhruva Nakshatra. There is another system of astronomy where they used to identify one more system of stars. You can see there at the top, there is one more system of stars. The lower one is called as Ursa Major and the upper one is called as Ursa Minor. So they used to detect this Ursa Minor also, that pole star was part of that Ursa Minor there. It is not so easy to detect or identify this Ursa Minor. It is very easy to identify this Ursa Major because all these 7 stars are appearing in a particular pattern and they are all very bright stars. You can try to identify this Ursa Minor also, and the pole star is part of that Ursa Minor there. Now you will have to wonder at this astronomical placement of the stars, and you can really wonder which are the laws they are governing the movements of these stars, because they are not linear motions, they are not spiral motions, they are not circular motions, they are multidimensional motions, and many of these motions we normal beings may not be able to understand. To some extent, astronomers are even today trying to find out all the mysterious laws that are making the stars to move. Maybe after some other time, I'll tell the story of Laplace and Napoleon. Let me continue to the next slide. Yeah, we cannot say it is our solar system, but we are habituated to say that it is our solar system because we think this is our sun. So you can see a burning big globe is the sun at the center, and there is Mercury, there is Venus, there is Earth. Now around Earth there is this moon. Then there is Mars. Then there is Jupiter. Then there is Saturn. Then there is Uranus and Neptune. So each of these planets are going round the sun. Now on Earth, as of now, as we have optimum temperature, due to which nearly 2/3 of Earth is water, 1/3 of Earth is mud or solid. So there is life in water, there is life on Earth. And this life has evolved on Earth because of the optimum amount of temperature. So, logically thinking, many eons before, there had been life on Mars. Gradually, sun kept on cooling down because sun keeps on burning, sun keeps on cooling down. Maybe the temperature on Mars got reduced and the life transferred to Earth. Maybe after a few eons, when sun again reduces its temperature, life on Earth may end completely because that Earth will become more cooler and life may get transferred towards Venus. This way it may happen. Logically, to think in this way, life would have been there on Jupiter as well that way. Or life will be there on Mercury also that way. After so many eons, when sun completely burns out, when sun becomes a black hole, nothing but black space moving around. Later on, there may not be any light on any of these planets, and the life may cease to exist on any of these planets. This is how it is going on throughout the universe. Actually, we don't know. We only know little about the solar system as such. We really don't know what all is happening in all other stellar systems or in other stars. In the many corners of the universe, we really don't know. We should salute to the ancient rishis who made Jyotisha as part of the Veda. Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Jyotisha, Chandas. These are called as 6 Vedangas. Even though the astronomical science got developed in the last few centuries, after the invention of the telescope, we should salute the rishis of Bharata who had formulated the movement of stars many centuries before in the Vedic period itself. And they could calculate when the eclipses are going to happen. They could calculate accurately about the new moon day, about the full moon day. And even today, we have this particular system called Panchanga, where Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana. These 5 things are mentioned in the Pancha Anga, the 5 parts. That is part of the Indian astrology or Jyotisha. I am talking about the mathematical part of Jyotisha, not the present Jyotisha which has become a commercialized version, where people say that they will predict a person's future just by looking at the horoscope. No. Fate is what? Faith, actions, thoughts, environment. Your future depends on your own thoughts, your own actions, your own habits, your own character. That is your own destiny. How can anybody else predict your own future when they themselves are unsure about their own future? That way, the holy system of Jyotisha, which was part of the Vedas, has unfortunately become a commercialized methodology for someone's livelihood nowadays. I am not mentioning about the commercialized astrology which is prevalent now. No one can predict your future except yourself. It is you who are going to decide how to live. No one else. It is your own decision to live as per your own thoughts, as per your own actions, as per your own culture. Okay, I have told about it already in my previous presentation. I need not discuss all that again now. I am mentioning here about the holy system of astrology or Jyotisha, which was part of Veda. where they could accurately predict the new moon day, full moon day, the eclipses without the help of telescopes. And at that time itself, they had mentioned these planets as Buddha, Shukra, Chandra, Mangala, Guru, Shanishchara. And they had also mentioned two Chaya Graha called Rahu and Ketu. Actually, this Rahu and Ketu are not part of the astronomy now. But in the part of Indian astrology, they are the 2 points where new moon day and full moon day are going to occur. They are actually existing in the orbit of the moon. So that way they become important for the sake of calculation. Later on, people started developing lots of stories about these astrological facts, many blind faiths, many types of stupid stories, I should say. Actually, these are all the planets that are moving around the sun. Instead, people started thinking that all these planets are going to have a heavy influence on our lives. The movement of the planets is going to have a definite influence on nature. That is for sure. The moon's movement is going to affect the rise and fall of the tides in the sea. The moon's movement is going to affect some natural events such as a certain blooming of flowers, a certain sprouting of seeds. So all these planets have their own internal magnetic forces which are intermingling with each other, and mutually they are going to influence each other's nature. That is for sure. But these are all simply physical bodies moving. They have nothing to do with one person's life on earth. Whether someone will become an engineer, someone will become a doctor, someone will become a lawyer, someone will become a cheat, someone will become a liar, someone will become a drunkard. Now, these have nothing to do with the planets as such. Now, when someone is having a good CET ranking on a good score in GATE, they will get merit seat in an engineering college, maybe in IIT or maybe in NIT or maybe in a regular university affiliated colleges. Those who do not have those many rankings or good merit scores, they will gradually pay a capitation fee, and by means of a management quota, they will get into some college, maybe a medical seat, maybe an engineering seat. Now, is it written in the horoscope of somebody? No, absolutely no. It is that particular father's ability to accumulate that much of money to get a seat in a particular college, whether engineering college or medical college. Even in these colleges, there are high-level colleges, there are mid-level colleges, there are low-level colleges. And depending upon their strata or status, each college will charge a particular amount of capitation fee or a management fees. They call it as donation. Now, do you think the planets decide all this? Nothing. It is the people decide. When the people decide all these things, how can they blame it on the planets? If somebody is a smoker, somebody is a drunkard, somebody is a liar, does it mean that the planets are influencing them to do all that? It is their personal decision. That is why I am telling the very pure science of astrology of the Vedic period has been turned into something else in the modern days now. No one can predict your future except you. I am telling you once again. Your future is dependent on your own memory, nothing else. If you cleanse your memory, if you purify your memory, if you fill memory with the good thoughts, then your future is going to happen that way only. If your future has to be good, then your memory has to be good. That's all. Now, how you keep your memory is up to you only. It is your own decision. So, the real system of astrology is something different. The system of astrology which is prevalent now as a commercial venture is something wrong. But I would appreciate if you read the book of Linda Goodman's Sun Sign and Linda Goodman's Star Signs, where she has made an honest effort to relate astrology with the person's nature. For example, those 12 signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. So this way, Mesha, Vrishaba, Mithuna, Karka, Simha, Kanya, Tula, Vrishchika, Dhanu, Makara, Kumbha, Meena. These 12 signs, each sign is carefully kept that way. Because in general, in these signs, if people are born, in general, their nature resembles that particular creature. That is why specifically those names are kept. There is a great system of philosophy in naming those 12 zodiac signs that way, where for a person's pranamaya kosha or for the etheric body or pranamaya kosha is basically a magnetic field. It is a sheath made up of magnetic forces. I have already discussed about it in the beginning when I discussed about pranamaya kosha and the chakras, where I discussed more about pranic healing. Now that particular matter of pranamaya kosha is an intermingling matter where even the moon's influence is there, even the sun's influence is there, even the other planets' influence is there. Because all these planets along with the sun are moving through this magnetic field itself, right? It is the combination of centrifugal force as well as centripetal force, right? It is basically a magnetic force or the force of gravitation, right? So that way, this force of gravitation is influencing anything and everything on this earth. So when a body is born, when the body is developing its own pranamaya kosha around it, naturally pranamaya kosha will have a certain subtle material or matter, and that is going to decide the quality of that particular person or the nature or the character of that particular person. That is what we call as the nature at the time of birth or at the character at the time of birth. But it can always change later on when you learn more, or it can always change later on when you are socially conditioned. The person whose nature was at the time of birth can always change later on. There are equal chances that the person who was wise at the time of birth may gradually become a stupid, or the person who is stupid at the time of birth may gradually become wiser. Because there are equal opportunities for anybody and everybody to change to some extent. I'm not talking about rebirth and reincarnation here. People like Adi Shankara have brought their knowledge from the previous life to this life. I'm not talking about that. That is happening at the level of Vijnanamaya Kosha, not at the level of Pranamaya Kosha. Here I'm talking about the Pranamaya Kosha or the influence of planets. So definitely the planets are going to influence each other. Definitely the planets are going to influence the nature on earth as well. But they are not going to influence your own intellect, your own buddhi. That is why Swami Vivekananda had told in one of his speeches that he will never allow any planet to decide his life. He had directly told this. He has told that he will live his life according to his will and not because of any planet's will. As such, planet is not having any will. Planet is moving through the magnetic forces, that's all. Planet is not having any intention. All these planets are moving as per the laws they are made by God himself. Neither Jupiter, nor Saturn, nor Mercury, nor Venus, they are not having their own individual will to influence something else. Just like the wind is blowing, just like the water is flowing, just like the fire is burning, same way planets are moving in their orbits. So, Again, why I tell you to read the Linda Goodman Sun Science? Because to some extent, you can understand your own pranamaya kosha well. Now, when some people say they like some type of food, when some people say they like some type of movies, then some people say they like some types of books. Why do they do that? They do that because that is part of their basic nature when they were born. That is part of the material that is vibrating in the pranamaya kosha. Some people like sweets, some people like sour, some people like astringent, some people like chilies also. Why? Because that is part of their body as well as etheric body, physical body as well as etheric body. Annamaya kosha and pranamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha is heredity, pranamaya kosha is astrology. Manomaya kosha is society, Vijnanamaya kosha is previous life. Anandamaya kosha is the divine self. I'll repeat. Annamaya kosha is because of heredity. Physical body is because of heredity. Pranamaya kosha is because of nature or astrology. Etheric body is because of planetary forces. Later on, this etheric body gets developed because of your breathing and your food. Prana can get enhanced by means of the practice of pranayama. That is a yogic practice. Otherwise, for every living body, there is a pranamaya kosha. Now, manomaya kosha is of the social influences or social environment in which the child grows up. Vijnanamaya kosha is because of the previous life's imprints, previous life's memory. And the Anandamaya kosha is because of the divine existence. Anyway, I'm going to talk about all these things again in much more detail later on. Let me not bring those things right now here. Here the purpose of discussion is something different. I'm going to discuss all those things in detail in the later part. Let me go on to the next slide. Again, I'm going showing to the picture of solar system where you can relatively see the sizes. Sun is so large. You can see the size. Mercury is so small. And then Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Now there is a digression or argument whether Pluto exists or not. Let me not get into that particular argument. So this is the solar system. Let me tell you the story of Napoleon and Laplace. Laplace was a very famous mathematician, and at that time Napoleon was the emperor. One day Napoleon came to know that in his kingdom there's a great mathematician called Laplace, and this Laplace has worked extensively in the time domain as well as in the frequency domain. I think all the engineering students or engineering people remember Laplace that way. One day Napoleon called Laplace to his court and he appreciated the efforts of Laplace. And Napoleon told to Laplace that I came to know that you know a lot about universe. You know many secrets of the universe about time, space, time and frequency and such things. You know about the multiple domains of the universe. Now why don't you write a book on whatever you know? Now Laplace said, if I have to write a book on whatever I know, then that book will run into many volumes. And it will take me much time. Napoleon said, don't worry, let it run into volumes. Let it take much time. Still you can write. And Laplace said, if at all I take that much of time and if I write a book in much volumes, I need some funding for that because my time is going to be spent for that. I cannot waste my time on that. Now Napoleon said, don't worry, I am an emperor. I will provide funding for your writing. I will take care of your livelihood. You don't have to worry. But you write those books. Whatever you know, you write those books. I'll provide the funding for you. Third question Laplace told was, even if I devote that much of time to write all those books, and even if you give me the funding, and if you take care of my livelihood, who is going to read those books finally? Who will understand all those things? Napoleon said, don't worry, as I am going to do the funding, I will read your books. You write those books only for me, that is enough. Even if nobody else is going to read your books, I am going to read your books, and I will make an arrangement to preserve your books for the future generation. You don't have to worry. You simply do whatever I tell you to do. Fine, Laplace agreed. Laplace said, okay, if all these things are there, then fine, I'll write. And Laplace took a few years to write these books and to complete. It became some volumes, and he completed after a few years. After a few years, Laplace brought all those books and gave it to Napoleon. Napoleon said, I'm very happy. I will continue to take care of your livelihood in future as well. But as you have taken few years, it will take me a few years to go through these books and to understand whatever is there. Okay. Laplace said, okay, take your own time to understand. Napoleon also took a few years to go through the books and to understand some concepts there. Now, after all that, one day Napoleon called Laplace and told him, my dear friend, I'm so happy that you have written everything, whatever you know about the universe. You have written about the macrocosm also, about the microcosm also, about time, space, frequency, and all those things. I'm very happy. You have written so much about creation, but in none of these books you have mentioned about a creator. You have written volumes about creation, but you have not written one sentence about the creator. Now Laplace said, there is no creator. Napoleon said, how can a creation happen without the creator? Laplace said, for this particular creation, there is no creator, no need of a creator. Now Napoleon said, if an art has to be happening, artist has to be there. If a music has to be happening, musician has to be there. If a cooking has to be happening, a cook has to be there. Now, how can a creation happen without the creator? Laplace said, my dear Napoleon, there is no creator. See, all the planets are revolving around the stars. All the stars are moving in the galaxies. Galaxies moving in the universe. It is all because of the magnetic forces, gravitational forces. Now Napoleon said, if there are magnetic forces, gravitational forces, there must be something or some existence or some power that is creating these forces. Now again Laplace said, why are you worried about all that thing? There is nothing like that. It is simply because of the natural forces all this is happening. Again Napoleon said, if there are natural forces, for the movement there must be an intention there. If any movement has to happen, there must be an initiation for the movement. There must be an intention there. And there must be an intention to create all this. Again Laplace said, there is no creator, there is no such intention. This is all simply natural forces working. Again Napoleon asked, okay, let us come back to the microcosm now. Instead of the macrocosm, let us discuss the microcosm. How about this body? In this body, if there are organized sense organs and motor organs, and this body is well planned with the digestion and respiration and circulation and excretion. Now how can this body be there? Laplace said, my dear friend, male and female met together, and because of the sexual union, in the womb there is a fertilization of a cell, it becomes a zygote, it becomes an embryo, and it comes out. In nature, all these creatures, male and female creatures, they mate with each other, and that is how the female becomes pregnant, and that is how it yields offspring. Even in case of plants or trees, some insect goes and sits on a flower, and there is a cross pollination happening. Because of the wind, self pollination happening, and because of that pollination, the flower gets fertilized. Flower becomes a fruit, fruit becomes a seed, and fruit will yield a seed. Fruit will become a food for something else, and because of the seed, again it will sprout, and this cycle will continue. It is simply because of the laws of chemistry and biology. Now, this universe or macrocosm is simply because of the laws of physics and mathematics. And this microcosm is simply because of the laws of chemistry and biology. Nothing else. It is simply all these laws who are in place, they are all working together. Again, Napoleon said, if there are these many laws, laws of chemistry, laws of physics, laws of biology, laws of mathematics, and it is the intermingling of all these laws working together, there must be some other higher existence which is planning these laws. Again, Laplace said, my dear friend Napoleon, you are too much worried. There are no such existences, or there is no such existence called creator which is planning these laws. All these are laws of physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, that's all. It is all the intermingling of different types of forces, different types of energies, different types of matter mixing together with each other. Napoleon said, are you sure? Laplace said, I am damn sure. I am very sure. And Napoleon said, then what is the meaning of life? Then Laplace said, there is no meaning in finding out the meaning of life. You don't worry too much about finding the meaning of life. You are born due to someone's mating, and you will die after some aging. In between, there is not much to worry or think about what is the real purpose of life. There is no serious purpose of life as such. You don't have to worry. I became a scientist out of my own interest. You became an emperor out of your own interest. That's all. You live like an emperor, die like an emperor. I live like a scientist and mathematician. I die like a scientist and mathematician. That's all. That was our choices. There is nothing like a purpose of life as such. You don't have to worry too much about all these things. Actually, this is all meaningless. You don't have to find a lot of meaning in this meaningless existence. Napoleon again asked, are you really very sure, my dear Laplace? And Laplace told, I am pretty sure, my dear Napoleon. Napoleon said, okay. And Laplace went back to his home. Anyhow, the livelihood of Laplace was taken care by Napoleon, and that way it went on. Many years went by. After so many years, Laplace became old. Napoleon became old. After so many years, Laplace was bedridden. One day, Laplace called for Napoleon. Now, Napoleon came all the way. Even though Napoleon was old, he came all the way to Laplace's house. And he asked Laplace, my dear friend Laplace, how did you remember me after so many years? Now Laplace said, my dear Napoleon, you had asked me a question many years before after I wrote volumes about my knowledge about the universe. And you had asked me a question. I had written so much about creation, I did not mention about the creator. And you asked me in so many ways, am I sure? Am I sure? I told you that I am pretty damn sure there is no creator. My dear friend Napoleon, now I take that sentence back. Now I definitely feel that there is a creator. Now Napoleon asked him, what makes you to think that way now? Laplace told, my dear friend, I was thinking all these days that this body was the outcome of sexual mating of my parents. I was thinking that this particular body is an outcome of some chemical activity and biological activity that is happening inside my mother's womb. And I was thinking that someday this body will get aged and this body will die. Now I am aged, I am bedridden. After a few days or a few weeks, I am going to die. Now I am thinking, how come this breathing started and who is going to end this breathing? How come life came into existence in this combination of materials, and how come after a few weeks the life ceases to exist in this combination of materials? Whatever I was thinking as simply a chemistry and biology, now I think what is making this chemistry and biology to work. Till now I was denying whatever you have been asking. Now I am seriously thinking, in a flower, how come a beauty is coming? In a flower, how come such complicated petals are coming? How can I dare to say that it is simply because of the laws of chemistry and physics and biology and mathematics? How can I say? How can I say that in my own hands, now there are 10 fingers, each finger is different from the other. This body is so much well organized, and I did not understand my own body till now. How structured, how maintained my body was till now, I did not understand. I was always worried about how universe works. I was not at all worried about how my own body works. I was always thinking about the external world. I never bothered about the internal world. After a few days or after a few weeks, the person called Laplace is not going to exist. Now the question is, the person called Laplace, how come he came into existence in the first place? Now I seriously think there is a creator, and I seriously think creator has a purpose in making a Laplace and in making a Napoleon. I become a mathematician, you became an emperor. That was our choice as such. But our purposes are going to end after a few days or few weeks. You no longer remain an emperor. I no longer remain a mathematician. But when a creator made a human form, there is a definite purpose, which even today I could not understand because I did not think in that angle at all. After a few days or a few weeks, this body is going to perish and Laplace is not going to exist anymore. Now Laplace is seriously thinking that his own existence is not under his control. Even if Laplace wants to live also, he cannot live anymore. All these days, I lived as if a great, arrogant scientist or arrogant mathematician. I kept on thinking that it is my knowledge of the universe. It is my books that are written. Now I cease to exist after a few weeks or a few months. And this existence is my control. So, who is controlling this existence of Laplace? And who is going to gain control over the ending of the personality of Laplace? So now I seriously feel there is a creator, and the creator's purpose is much bigger than our mundane purposes. Napoleon said, my dear friend, that is what I wanted you to explore. That is what I wanted you to understand. And that is what I also wanted to understand from you. That is the purpose I asked you to write those books. But as you have not understood that fact, you did not make me to understand this particular fact. After a few weeks, Laplace died. But before his death, he had spoken one last sentence. That last sentence was, "Oh God, I'm sorry. I could not understand the gifts you have given to me. I could not understand you. I could not understand myself also. I thought I have understood a lot about the universe and a lot about life. But I wasted all my time in understanding many other external things. I did not make an effort sincerely to understand my own body, my own mind, my own existence, my own self. Oh God, I am sorry. If at all there is next life, oh God, in that next life, let me try to understand myself, and in that process, let me try to understand you." My dear friends, it's a great story, and this is real. My dear friends, my question to all of you is, on your deathbed, if you have to die, will you say what Laplace said? Someday you are going to die, someday I am going to die, someday all of us are going to die. But on our deathbed, should we say, "Oh God, I am sorry"? Or should we say, "Oh God, thank you"? What should we say? In my life's experience, I have seen many people die. I have seen my own father die. I have seen my own father-in-law die. I have seen my own grandfather die. I have seen many people die. Some people die in the hospitals. Some people die in their own homes. Some people die paralyzed. But I have seen all these deaths. Actually, they are all very pitiful deaths. Whichever death I have seen, no one has died peacefully. People who die in the hospitals, even they want to die peacefully also, they are not allowed. Because in the ICU, so many tubes are connected, so many wires are connected. And even if they want to die peacefully also, they are not allowed to die peacefully. Now, those people who die at home also, they don't die peacefully. Because people don't want to die that way. Actually, people don't want to die at all. Even if they know that death cannot be escaped, still people don't want to die. That is why they come back to life in one way or the other. And the same pain they carry to the next life as well. Because they live a painful life now also. They will carry the same painful memory for next life also. Now, it is my choice, it is your choice. When we leave our body, should we say, "Oh God, I am sorry"? Should we say, "Oh God, thank you"? I will definitely say, "Oh God, thank you for this gift of life." I will definitely say, "Oh God, thank you for this healthy body. Oh God, thank you for connecting me to a holy lineage of spiritual masters. Oh God, thank you for putting me into the path of yoga. Oh God, thank you for giving me a learning attitude with the efficient sense organs, healthy body. Oh God, thank you for connecting me to those right people who have been guiding me, who have been motivating me, who have been helping me. Oh God, thank you for giving me wonderful students who are committed with me in the spiritual path from last 2 decades. Oh God, thank you for so many wonderful, big-hearted people who understand me and understand themselves. and we care for each other that way. Is this not enough to say thanks to God? Or should we say cursing God for bad fate, cursing God for not getting a BDA site, cursing God for not getting a good job? But all those things are man-made, not God-made. The system of money, system of profession, system of political powers, all this is human-made system. It is not God-made. Why should you blame God for all mundane, materialistic, selfish reasons? Why don't you be simply thankful to God for the very gift of life? It is high time for introspection, and it is high time for divine connection. At least the mistake which Laplace made, I hope my listeners will not make it. Seriously. This is going to be the real education, not the other mundane, materialistic degree, postgraduate degree education. This is the real education, which is supposed to be. Let me move on to the next slide. Okay. From the very first picture till this picture, just recall whatever we have been seeing. It was a compressed collection of all the stars in the first slide. Now we came to Milky Way galaxy, we came to solar system. Now we come to our Mother Earth. We call it as Mother Earth. Even though it is a materialistic existence, it is 2/3 of water and 1/3 of mud. You can see the holy country Bharata directly in front of you. Even though British called it as India, we are proud to call it as Bharata. It is right in front of you. What a wonderful round ball where water and earth together are revolving and rotating in free space. Now, 2/3 of water, 1/3 of earth. Naturally, we human beings are very proud that we are on the surface of earth. But in very large number, there are fishes in the ocean. Even though we say nearly 650 to 700 billion population on the surface of earth, we have not counted the population inside the ocean, right? We humans are proud that we are large in number. Sorry to say, the species of fish in the ocean are much larger in number than the number of people on the surface of earth. And now, anyhow, the people on the surface of earth are systematically being eradicated because of this pandemic. Nature has its own way of balancing things. And over past few weeks, we have been continuously seeing rain everywhere. Why? For the past century, there have been many burning of fuels, lot of air pollution, and because of the increased temperature, even the ozone layer was under threat, and the temperature on the surface of earth was increasing. Now, because of this pandemic, the movement of the people became standstill, and naturally the pollution got reduced. When the pollution got reduced, ozone layer is now covered up. When the ozone layer is covered up, earth has cooled down once again, and it is cooling down further. That is how we have rains. Nature is rebalancing itself. Nature is correcting the mistakes which human beings have been doing in the last 1 or 2 centuries. This is a big lesson for the human beings, that earth belongs to the creator, not to the human beings. Why we call it as Mother Earth? Always in the Indian scriptures, they say Prithvi as mother. They call it as Bhumata. Why? Because we are born from the womb of our mother, so we also think this earth as our mother. In the yoga Abhyasa, we have a shloka, Bhupranama mantra. Samudravasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnupati Namastubhyam Padasparshan Kshamaswame. This is that shloka. Samudravasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale. O goddess, ocean is your clothes and hills are your breasts. You are God's wife, Vishnupatni. I salute you. I pay my obeisances to you. Vishnupatni Namastubhyam Padasparsham Chamaswame. Forgive me, O my mother. I am putting my feet over you. I am walking over you. That is the greatness of a Rishi who made this particular Subhashita, who considered this earth as our mother. I hope only in the Indian land they consider earth as their mother. Whereas in the other countries, earth is considered as some iron ore, manganese ore, aluminum ore, copper ore, gold ore, uranium ore, plutonium ore, diamonds, coals, petroleum, whatnot. They think as if they can keep on digging earth for their own selfish reasons, and they can keep on looting whatever is there on the surface of earth. Do they consider this earth as their mother? If they consider the earth as their mother, would they do all that, whatever they are doing now? Of course, most of the Indians are also involved in such activities only nowadays. But I am appreciating the Rishi who made this particular Subhashita. Samudravasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale Vishnupati Namastubhyam Padasparshan Kshamaswame. And they considered these 5 elements as Panchabhuta, Prithvi, Apaha, Tejaha, Vayuhu, Akasha. They did not consider just like what physics calls it as solid, liquid and gas. When we say something as solid, liquid and gas in physics, we do not get any divine attitude there. But when we say in Sanskrita, Prithvi, Apaha, Tejaha, Vayuhu, Akasha, there is a divine nomenclature there. There is a spiritual nomenclature there. So earth is not simply earth. Water is not simply water. Air is not simply air. Just like what physics says, it is not that way. The way in which we look at earth has to change. This is the other side of earth. You can see the occidental side. This side of earth is called occidental side. The previous one, oriental side. The Asian European side is called oriental side. The North American and the South American side is called as the occidental side. See how much of ice, how much of water, how much of land. In fact, the land of America was having a lot of natives earlier, 3 or 4 centuries before. Columbus wanted to find a route towards India. Even Vasco da Gama wanted to find a route towards India. Even Albuquerque wanted to find a route towards India, because India was famous at that time for all its wealth. India was a very wealthy country at that time, and everybody wanted to loot India that way. They wanted to come all the way to India and loot India that way. That is why they came, and they were partially successful also that way. Columbus went in the wrong route, because at that time GPS was not there. He went in the wrong route. He landed in America, And he thought this is India. And he thought all those natives are Indians. He thought that way. But then he came to know it is not India. Later on, they started calling it as West Indies. And they called wherever we are staying as East India. So that was called West Indies. And they were called Red Indians. Because here they had Black Indians. They considered us to be black. And there were Red Indians. They called them as Red Indians, the natives of Americans. And these Europeans mercilessly killed so many Native Americans and established their own country called United States of America. Look at the strange law of karma working. They thought they can do whatever they want to do, and they killed so many Native Americans mercilessly, and they built their own country. They thought they can remain independently, freely. But now look at the way in which law of karma is working. Are Americans happy? Now, Americans are learning Vedanta from the Indian scriptures. Americans are learning Samskrita and Ayurveda and Yoga from the Indian tradition. Look at the way in which the law is working. Now remember Laplace's story. Should you say, "Oh God, I am sorry"? Or should you say, "Oh God, thank you"? Should you become egoistic like those Europeans who went to America and killed so many Native Americans there and established their own country, and even today their sufferings do not end? In spite of all the lavishness, in spite of all the wealth, in spite of all the technology, they are not happy. Why they are not happy? There is something beyond the material existence. There is something beyond the body, which Laplace did not understand, which Americans also did not understand. But we are fortunate that in the Vedic period itself, Indians or Bharatiyas or Aryas had understood. That is the secret of spirituality. With this message, let me end the session today. See you again tomorrow. Until then, take care and bye-bye.